Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Tropical storm Alberto is slamming northeast Mexico and Texas with heavy rain and coastal flooding, along with powerful wind gusts. In New Mexico, 2 wildfires killed at least 2 people, but rain is finally providing some relief. Firefighters in California are facing the dangerous heat, which is also bearing down on the Midwest and New England. It's decision day at the Supreme Court, and the justices are expected to announce several important opinions. We're waiting for decisions on about 24 cases. One of them involves former President Donald Trump's claim of presidential immunity, along with cases involving the Second Amendment and abortion. And opponents are already threatening to sue over a plan in Louisiana that requires classrooms to display the 10 Commandments. The legislation was signed into law yesterday. All public classrooms must have a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments. Regarding the Christian and Jewish text applies to classrooms from kindergarten to universities. Protesters have been arrested after spraying the ancient monument Stonehenge with orange paint yesterday. In this video, you can see the moment the 2 protesters spray the iconic British landmark with bright orange paint using fire extinguishers. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Well, heat lingers around across parts of the Northeast today, especially into New England. There's a little bit of relief in sight, though. Otherwise, as we move towards South Texas today, Alberto is generally moving west and weakening as it moves inland, so the rain will start to exit down there. Otherwise, look at this. Temperatures in the 90s today across much of the Midwest, the South, and into the Northeast as well, with high temperatures in the mid-90s in Maine.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Thursday, June 20th. Our top story, the triple threat of dangerous weather. Tropical storm Alberto slamming the Texas coast. The system expected to make landfall this morning in Mexico. Areas in the west dealing with wildfires claiming another life in New Mexico with thousands of acres burned. And in the east, dangerously hot temperatures impacting millions from the Midwest to the tip of Maine. It's all coming on the summer solstice when the Earth reaches its maximum tilt towards the sun. Summer becoming official at 4:54 p.m. Eastern. We have team coverage starting with Spectrum News anchor Jenna Eek.
To say it feels like summer is an understatement. We're talking temperatures in the Midwest and Northeast that are sky high, even a heat alert that is in effect for today, as the high temperatures are causing air quality issues and other health concerns. New York alone is reporting a 72% rise in recent health-related ER visits. This extreme heat is putting animals at risk too.
It can be very difficult to regulate their body temperature.
Meanwhile, on the Gulf Coast, Tropical Storm Alberto is bringing water spouts, floods, and disaster declarations in more than 50 counties in Texas.
The water's up to the dunes right now, so it's definitely not safe to be out on the beaches currently.
Flooding and high water is a concern as the Gulf Coast is getting soaked. The Texas Gulf Coast could see rain between 2 and 7 inches. Folks on the Gulf battle intense rain. Those on the West Coast are hoping rain there helps simmer down the wildfires in California and New Mexico. This video captured by EarthCam shows smoke filling the sky as residents of the southern New Mexico village of Ruidoso were ordered to flee their homes.
Now where do we go? Because I'm pretty confident.
A river in Ruidoso jumped over 6 feet in 15 minutes, as now flooding is a concern on top of the deadly fires. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
Meteorologist Kyle Hansen continuing our team coverage. Kyle, what can we expect today on the summer solstice?
Well, Bree, certainly looking at a lot of heat out there across the Northeast. You can see here the potential to set some daily record high temperatures across parts of upstate New York into New England as well, and maybe even the Midwest too. In terms of those actual high temperatures today, most of us topping off in the low 90s from New York City down to D.C., Atlanta, Miami. But Boston, that's going to be the hot spot today, 98. That would tie a daily record high. But you also see some scattered thunderstorms developing in the afternoon, which could make it tough to quite reach that 98 number there. Nonetheless, still a very hot day. In the meantime, Alberto continues to bring rain across parts of South Texas today in northern Mexico, although not quite as much as yesterday as that system moves towards the west, a post-tropical system by the end of the day today.
Certainly a busy day in the weather world. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks.
All eyes are on the Supreme Court as the justices are expected to hand down at least one decision today. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez joins us now from Washington with the latest. We're at the end of the month here, and we're still waiting for opinions on which cases, Angie.
Well, so there are about 24 opinions that are still outstanding, Bree, and that's a considerable number. It's about a third of the cases that they heard all term. Now, the biggest one, of course, that we're waiting for is presidential immunity. That case in which attorneys for former President Donald Trump say that the 45th president has absolute immunity from prosecution for his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, a couple of the others that we're anticipating include one that involves January 6th defendants. It threatens to overturn hundreds of convictions. There's also a Second Amendment case, Bree, that was to be decided. Now, it specifically involves whether a person found by a judge to have committed domestic violence should have access to a gun, but a decision on that could actually have wider implications on whether a person can have access to a gun or whether that access can be taken away if they have not been charged or convicted of a specific crime. Two other big cases we're waiting on, Bree. One that's going to decide whether state laws can prohibit social media platforms from moderating content that's posted by their users. There's also another reproductive rights case. That's under Idaho's abortion ban violates a federal law about a person's right to get emergency services. Bree?
And we're getting down to the wire here. The court normally recesses at the end of June. Is it possible they could continue to issue opinions into July?
Yeah, it certainly is possible, Bree, and it often depends on a Thursday, and that means that technically there are 3 working days before that. So sometimes the holiday lands on either side of a weekend, and in those years, the court has previously handed down its last decisions in June. But Bree, there is also a very narrow possibility that a case heard this term may not be decided at all, according to Scopes blog, which actually follows the court's actions and has for years. If a case is not decided by the end of term, it can be re-argued next term, but that is very rare unless the court has asked attorneys in the case to address a new question that they pose. Bree?
All right, Angie Gonzalez, thank you very much. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Vietnam today, continuing his bid to garner support in the face of increasing international isolation.
Putin's goal is not only to get the artillery ammunition that he needs, Korea gets stronger, and to build it as a bigger problem for the U.S.
His visit to the Southeast Asian nation coming on the heels of his summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, the two signing an agreement promising military assistance in the event either country is invaded. The deal also strengthening economic and cultural ties. Putin is meeting with top Vietnamese officials during his trip, the visit drawing condemnation from the U.S., which has closer diplomatic relations with Vietnam in recent decades and is among the country's top trade partners. The Biden administration is looking to reinstate a program that enables Gold Star families, those who have lost loved ones in the line of duty, the chance to honor the fallen who are buried abroad. The program allows families to buy flowers to be placed on fallen service members' graves at U.S. military cemeteries that are on foreign soil. A White House official says the administration is working together with the American program ended nearly a decade ago, but is now expected to be included in the coming budget year starting in October. Coming up on our political buzz, a look at the caseload still facing the Supreme Court and fresh questions from Democrats over the court's ethics standards.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusive.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect.
On hold in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Well, I may have some pretty high temperatures across parts of New England today. We're all tracking the threat for some storms. All that heat is bringing a lot of instability. Thunderstorms today for much of upstate New York and New England as well, including much of Massachusetts and the southern two-thirds of Vermont, New Hampshire, and southern half of Maine as well. So this will actually bring some relief in terms of the heat. We'll cool things down later in the afternoon today, but before those storms fire up, it of course is going to be very hot out there, and we're talking the potential to break some daily record highs in spots. But you can see here by 2 o'clock, storms starting to pop up in parts of New York and also even in parts of Massachusetts, southern Vermont as well. These will become more numerous as we head toward the evening. So by 7 p.m., showers and storms will be fairly scattered. It's almost numerous at some points heading into this afternoon and evening. Some of these storms could produce some gusty winds out there. That's going to be the main threat with these thunderstorms today, is a potential for some high winds. As we head toward tonight, though, for the most part, these storms start to lose a lot of their losing instability as we head into the night. But tomorrow, another round of storms is expected. Generally, in the afternoon, we'll see some pop-up showers and storms. These are going to be scattered and probably a little bit less likely to be on the strong or severe side. But nonetheless, this will continue to help cool things off a little bit. And overall, tomorrow will be a cooler day, especially in northern New England as you get behind a little frontal system. You can see Saturday, some showers and storms are going to linger as well. Generally a wet day for Saturday in parts of northern New England. And this is really what's going to start to cool things down as we head through the weekend. And eventually those showers and storms push into southern New England as we head towards Saturday night. And we'll look at a big improvement, at least briefly, for the heat as we head into the weekend.
What you need to know. Tropical storm Alberta dumping rain on Texas and Mexico in the first named storm of the season. Wildfires in New Mexico have claimed another life, and the extreme heat impacting millions from the Midwest to Maine. The Supreme Court is expected to release one or more opinions this morning. More than 20 cases remain, including one relating to abortion and another on presidential immunity. And Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un say the strategic partnership they signed in their summit in Pyongyang yesterday is a breakthrough, but its consequences for the near and long terms are uncertain. The agreement could pose new challenges to the international community. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. The U.S. reattaching the pier designed to help deliver aid to Gaza. President Biden calling for the construction of the pier in his State of the Union address to open up humanitarian aid channels. The pier was constructed in April and began operations last month because of bad weather and the pier breaking apart. Tensions remain high between Israel and the U.S., with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claiming the Biden administration is withholding military aid. The White House is denying those claims. The Israeli leader and the leader of Hamas continuing to face political pressure to agree to a ceasefire plan. It's decision day again at the Supreme Court, and there are quite a Cases left to be decided. Our Era Lewis joins us this morning's Political Buzz. Thank you for joining us. We're getting down to the wire here with the Supreme Court, and there's not much time left. There's still a lot of cases to be heard. What's happening here?
That's right. By tradition, the Supreme Court leaves its most important decisions in any given term to the end of the term, and the end of the term is the end of June. So yes, we are up upon it. We're going to hear some today, and the remainder will be in the next week, and that will be the end. The political world is looking at is the immunity case, where Donald Trump has basically asked the court to approve sweeping blanket immunity from criminal liability, no matter what he did, in effect, as president of the United States. Now, this would go a long way toward getting him out of some legal problems as he tries to run for re-election. So in the short term, there's going to be kind of a focus, but then there's this larger question. Can presidents do what they want when they're in the Oval Office? And it's an important question, and that's why it's before the Supreme Court. That's the one everybody's going to be watching.
Yeah, and there's going to be implications for generations to come from something like this, too. Switching gears a little bit, some Democratic representatives, Jamie Raskin and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, sending a letter to Chief Justice Roberts questioning the ethics around the court, specifically about...
They're going to get some kind of answer. The Supreme Court has reached a new low when it comes to public trust in the institution, and Chief Justice Roberts, first and foremost, understands that without public support, the court really can't do its job. The court can issue all kinds of different decrees and rulings and interpretations of the Constitution, but if the public doesn't buy it and the public doesn't believe in the court, then we have really a crisis in this country. And so they have to maintain their credibility. Now, there have been enough ethical issues that have been raised around travel and accepting of gifts and political involvement and non-recusing themselves from particular cases that the standards have got to be clarified. Congress is asking for something that probably should have been done a long time ago. And so the court is going to have to respond, even if the response is, we'll figure this out on our own. Right. But ultimately, you know, the powers of the court are really circumscribed by the legislature. And if they push these kinds of questions, they run the risk of having Congress step in and place requirements on them around recusal, other internal operations of the court.
And very quickly, what do you have coming up on your show this week?
We're looking at artificial intelligence. There are things like deep fakes and fakes and misinformation and lots of different computer-generated images and information that can really lead people astray. We've been worried about it all along. It's starting to kind of reach a breaking point, and we're going to look at whether and how it's going to influence this fall's elections.
All right, Era Lewis, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ahead on Spectrum News, a music program bringing teenage performers together to make their home state proud.
News Plus, news from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connect communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, stars visit their friends?
Look! Alberto continuing to move west out there through the day today. We'll continue to see Alberto move inland through Mexico, and most of that rain move to the west. In fact, for a lot of us, the worst is over, especially up in Texas. And Alberto will just pretty much move inland and win as it does so as it hits the mountains of Mexico today. Elsewhere in the tropics, we are looking at another area to watch east of the Bahamas. This is a very weak little trough here, moving towards the northwest. Low chance of development with this, but this will bring some showers to parts of North Florida and Georgia as well as we head into tomorrow. But another area to watch is going to be the same spot as Alberto this weekend. We could see some development once again with another low pressure system down there in the Bay of Campeche. So not too much of a break for parts of northeastern Mexico. This one may not be as significant for Texas in terms of the flooding that we saw with Alberto, but nonetheless could still bring some additional rainfall this weekend and into early next week. You can see here for today, again, a lot of that heavier rain from Alberto around noon today is going to be mainly across Mexico now as it moves inland and brings some heavy rains to some of the more mountainous areas there. But we still have some scattered downpours left over today across parts of South Texas. So we're still going to see rain generally around and south of Interstate 10 in Texas. So basically aligned weather through the day today. So with all the rain that we've seen down there, there still could be some potential for some additional flash flooding that will be possible today. Notice for tomorrow, definitely more isolated showers, but we still have this onshore flow across South Texas with an easterly wind. And so some additional scattered showers are still possible down there. And notice as we head through the weekend, Saturday, we start to see that little circulation develop down there once again in parts of the Bay of Campeche, southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and some heavier rain with that potential low pressure system developing down there. In terms of rainfall over the next 7 days, again, most of that's going to be confined to Mexico, but we still could see over the next 7 days a good 2 to even 4 inches across parts of South Texas.
Two protesters have been arrested after spraying the ancient monument stone. In this video posted to social media by a climate activist group, you can see the moment the two protesters spray the iconic British landmark with bright orange paint using fire extinguishers. Now, the incident occurred yesterday, just a day before huge crowds gathered to mark the summer solstice. The group trying to draw attention to global warming. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak calling it a disgraceful act of vandalism. Social media firm Snapchat reaching a $50 million settlement in a discrimination and harassment lawsuit brought by California's Civil Rights Agency. The suit claims Snapchat discriminated against female employees over pay and promotions, while also failing to prevent workplace sexual harassment and then retaliating against women who complained. As part of the settlement, most of the $15 million will go to employees who face discrimination, but say they disagree with the agency's findings and settled to avoid costly and lengthy litigation. Louisiana becoming the 10 Commandments. The legislation was signed into law yesterday. All public classrooms must have a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large readable font. The rule regarding the Christian and Jewish texts applies to classrooms from kindergarten to universities. It must be in place by the start of next year. The ACLU already announcing plans to sue. School is out for summer, but music and dance are in for a group of talented teenagers from Wisconsin. They are traveling the state and putting on some big shows every step of the way. Spectrum's Kelly Milan tells us more about a program called The Kids from Wisconsin.
19-year-old Ellie Brenner is spending her 5th summer with the performance troupe called Kids from Wisconsin. It's a group of 36 singers, dancers, and musicians between the ages of 15 and 20. Ellie is from the small town of Durand. Shows and workshops, all between mid-June and mid-August.
The group is super special. I mean, we become a super tight-knit family.
Time spent like this practicing routines with Connor Arden from Hartford.
At the top of the world tonight.
This will be his 6th summer in a row performing with the group, and he wouldn't trade it for anything.
Really special feeling to be in this space, and to be surrounded by this amount of talent too is inspiring and just really makes us all work really hard together.
The hard work starts at the top with artistic director and chief orchestrator Taras Naherniak. He's been helping lead Kids from Wisconsin for 34 years and is proud of the homegrown talent they showcase.
We get to basically show off Wisconsin because all of these kids are from this state. So this state should be very proud.
As some of the older, more experienced performers in the group, Connor and Ellie know their summers with the Wisconsin.
This summer, let's do it one last time.
Working together to give it everything they got. True performers treating every show like their last. Milwaukee, Kelly Milan, Spectrum News.
Ending on a high note there. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. With our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having I needed to come back to school, I felt accomplished. It made me feel that I could take whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you, and we'll figure it out."